Never in my life would I have thought that I would play a game like Sea of Stars. I mean, if I look at my history of games I played and really enjoyed, this game doesn't really fit into this category. I remember it felt like yesterday where I was just a kid who didn't focus on every little detail of video games and just played Sonic Adventure 2 Chow Garden until my eyes wanted to fall out of my head. It was just my vision of, in quotes, no game could ever get better than this. But in just this year alone, we've had some real heaters in gaming. I've been having so much trouble keeping up. I've already done 2 reviews that I qualified as the perfect game, and this one is no different. This game was developed by Sabotage Studios, and I'm glad to say that we got a winner with this one, folks. A turn-based RPG that really opened my eyes and has me really excited to bring you guys this after about a 2-week hiatus, which I am sorry about, but I'm excited to bring you guys why I think Sea of Stars is the perfect game and why I truly enjoyed this one so much. But before we get into everything that I do love about the game, my name is Nicktana. I sit here and critique video games and review games that I play, from indie titles to AAA titles. Everything that we play here, we do review and talk about. So if you love everything in all gaming, I want you guys to make sure you guys hit that sub button, like, all that good stuff. Because just like my boy Nax said,
content grind doesn't stop, baby. I need motion.
But let's get into what Sea of Stars is actually about to see if this is a game that you guys even want to consider playing. And just to highlight, this game is on Xbox Game Pass. If you have Xbox Game Pass alone, you guys should just be hitting that download button just for the mere fact that you're literally paying for this service for them to put really good games like Sea of Stars on there, and another game that I'm going to be talking about called Liza P, but that's no, that's going to be coming down the road. Liza P and Sea of Stars. If you have Game Pass, don't even think about it. Just hit the download button. This retro style turn-based RPG stars our 2 main characters, Valir and Zale, who are children of the Celeste, who are raised and trained to use their magic to explore the world and defend off the evil monsters that you run into on your adventure. The powers these children have are based off the sun and the moon, with a magic this game describes as eclipse magic. Valir is the moon and Zale is the sun. The power makes our 2 MCs the strongest warriors in the Sea of Stars. They are attended by a bunch of different side characters, such as the very positive and loving Chef Garl, an assassin that goes by the name of Sarai, and plenty more that I'm going to try not to spoil for you guys, because you guys are going to want to experience these characters for yourself. But on our journey, our heroes have to save the world from an evil known as the Fleshmancer and everything in their way. There's a few things I want to get into before we really rip this game apart. I do want to highlight that this game in general is a prequel to a game that Sabotage Studios made before this game came out, called The Messenger, where the world that is in Sea of Stars is the same world that takes place in The Messenger. So it kind of makes me want to go back to look at The Messenger and see how that game is like. It's an action adventure game, and it kind of has that same effect of what Sea of Stars has, with that same art style. So yeah, The Messenger. But now, going into ripping this game apart, the first thing I want to talk about is Sea of Stars, a retro masterpiece. This game is just the definition of retro beauty. Even with this game being in pixels, the world around you just looks really fascinating, and there's so many different islands and different feels to areas that you don't even get bored of the game quick. From the trees, plants, to the village towns you stumble upon, the waters you sail, and the mountains you climb. Sea of Stars made it fun to explore and feel great when you got to a new island because of the mystery of what you will find there and how it's going to switch up. Comparing it to one of the games I showed you guys when I talked about the perfect games, it kind of reminded me of what Dave the Diver was doing. Dave the Diver had a lot of that pixel art style and more of a retro type feeling to it, but it made everything around the world look super beautiful. And like these type of games really just have like a grasp on me. Like they really just they grab me up. They get me excited, because I remember like maybe even a few years ago, if you see a game that had a pixel art style, in my opinion, sometimes I wouldn't even trust it. Or if it was an older game, I wouldn't lay my hands on it if it was too old. And I know that's gonna get a lot of people frustrated in the comments, but relax. Let me just tell my story. Okay, let me breathe. I remember even showing this game to my brother, and he was like, ah, man, I just can't do the pixels. But truly, if you just give the retro type style of feel, it's these type of games that have the best gameplay and the best feels to them, and I can guarantee that for you. But I generally just love the art style that this thing had. From you exploring the world to the little dialogue boxes that they had that showed the little character art in it. Every area felt new and a fresh experience to whatever missions you had to do. You had like the dark, creepy, undead area, and then you had the really beautiful underwater area where you go deep into the oceans. There was a lot of water enemies and stuff like that, and plenty of places for you guys to explore in this game that you guys are just gonna say, This is beautiful. Now let's go ahead and get into talking about the characters that are in the game, and my personal favorite that might throw you guys a little bit off guard. As I brought up just a bit ago, the characters in the game were amazing. So many personalities and a lot of personal stories that really go with a lot of these characters in the game that draw you in quick. I had so much love for all the characters because everyone had a different personality that really made them shine. I mean, yeah, Valir and Zale, they were the main characters of the game, but we talking about real MVPs? I'm talking about my man Garl in this situation. Hands down, one of the best characters in the game. I seriously loved everything about Garl. The man is just the definition of a golden retriever companion, man. Always looking out for his friends. He don't even have the same powers or the same abilities that Zale and Valir have, but he still fights and sticks up with some of the toughest enemies in the game. And he even gave himself the title of Warrior Cook. If that isn't the hardest shit I have ever heard of, Warrior Cook is so tough. And this man chefs up recipes. He makes sure the whole team is eating. He makes sure everybody is safe. And just in the game too, I'll kind of go ahead and get into his abilities a little bit later on. One of them is Nourish. This man can just straight up heal you so freaking much. Like, it has been an absolute savior to just throw Garl out there and rotate him in and just go ahead and heal. But the way I had this man built is I had him built like a freaking tank with the HP stats, and I just made sure I could just nourish whenever I want. But his frying pan hit like a truck as well. Honestly, man, if it wasn't for my girl Sarai though too, it's hard to pick a favorite. And it's crazy how like my favorites aren't even the main characters in the game. Sarai is just dope. She got a nice little backstory. Her two blades, the way she assassinates and the way she swiftly moves is just chef's kiss. She has a really funny storyline in the game too that I'm not gonna go ahead and spoil for you guys, but just her backstory alone makes me favor her a lot. And honestly, guys, that's just me bringing up the playable characters. Characters that just took place in the story that may not have played into a combat role still had so much personality and story to the game. It highlights so much of the story in the islands that you visit. Now that we got that out of the way, let's highlight some of the things about the combat system and kind of explain to you guys how combat works in this turn-based RPG that kind of separates it from the rest of the other games that you might think are the same. Talking about simple things leads me into another combat aspect of this review. Even though the combat didn't do anything game breaking or game changing, it was still a great experience and played very well within the game. Combat was really easy to understand, but also added in a lot of more elements in the game to keep you involved and to add more of an effect in game. Combat in Sea of Stars consists of combat, spells, combos, and items. In combat, you attack an enemy and time the hit of the attack to do more damage and to gain some more mana, so you could use some of those really good and useful spells later on in the battle. Spells can range for attacking one or multiple areas that use the power of whatever character you're using. Like Valir's attacks, with her Moonerang spell, will take her moon effect and will hit some creatures for super effective based on what power she possesses. Zale has the sun effect with his Sunball spell. Timing these will let you do more power and act as a multiplier depending on how good your timing is. With Valir's Moonerang, as long as you hit and you time up your blocking to send the Moonerang back, you could send multiple Moonerangs until you just break your combo and do more and more damage each time you deflect it. With Zale's Sunball, the longer that you hold down the sun ball is the more damage that you will do with Zale's spell. Depending on how much mana you have will depend on what spells you could use. I love the way the combat acted because with the way the enemies are laid out in the time that you have before they attack, it means you strategize in your head to figure out what enemies you're going to take down first. There's a lot of times in combat where you'll be outnumbered, maybe 4 enemies. You're going to have to figure out what does the most damage. You might have to single out one opponent before you knock out the other 3. Enemies in this game will have different types and looks depending on what island that you're exploring. I mentioned that a little bit earlier when I was talking about the art. A lot of times when you run into a new area and you battle an enemy for the first time, you're not going to know what weakness or what it resists. So you have to mess around and you have to do different spells and you have to mess around with a bunch of different combos to figure out what does the most damage. Because there's a lot of time also, you might just think a regular attack will be fine, but it might resist regular attacks and you're going to have to use a spell. Or it might resist spells, so you're just going to have to go away away and hack away at it with your sword. Depending on what it is, it's your job to figure that out. I never once tried to avoid any fight or combat in this game because I thought the combat was innovating and held a lot of value with the leveling up system. After taking down enough enemies in the game and you gained enough experience, you finally get to level up. On top of gaining a boost in every stat line that you can, you'll be able to buff one more stat more than any of the other stats, depending on how you want to level up your character. For example, Valier, I made her a little bit more of a physical attacker, but there was times where I made her have a lot of mana because if I boosted up her mana a little bit more, she could use more spells that were useful in the game, like her Lunar Shield that did a lot, or I could go back-to-back Moonerangs depending on how much damage I want to spew out. With Zale, I made his magic attack so much more than his physical attack because I thought his Sunball was better than what he could do physically, and the Sunball ranged for about 3 enemies, so you could do a lot more damage with that than just attacking one with a sword. Like I said earlier when I was talking about the MVP, Garl boosted up his health as much as I possibly can. Defenses were stacked as high as they could, and voila, you got a healing machine and someone that could hit super hard. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't know how detrimental it is if you sit there and level up the wrong stuff or if you build your character in a wrong certain way. Even with the way I built my characters, I felt like it maybe wasn't the right way that you should, or I didn't go by a guide or anything, but it worked for my type of play style. And in reality, if it was really that bad, I want to be able to progress through the game, but I'm still able to hold my own in fights, progress through the game. So it can't be that bad, but just make sure you kind of pay attention to what you're leveling up and how often you use your spells and etc, etc. Use your brain. Use your brain. Let me calm down a little bit, man. I was getting tired. We're going to take a little bit of time to make this next part of the review smooth. Because what we're going to be talking about in this next part in the review, gonna be talking about fishing. Fishing was just one of the most peaceful things to do in Sea of Stars. So relaxing. The music was bopping. The fish were getting reeled in, or starfish, or swordfish, or any type of fish. A lot of fish in this game. Fishing in this game was something I didn't know if I was gonna bring up in this review, but I enjoyed the hell out of this system. Fishing is such a simple but satisfying feature for the game Sea of Stars. Fishing is both super fun and needed so you could cook to use to gain your health back in detrimental battles. You could also use to get rainbow conches, all that good stuff. Well, I tell you guys, there are just so many different lakes. I think I've been to about 6 of them with their own different types of fish and vibe. Every time a chance to fish popped up, I couldn't help but grin. Some people might think it's time consuming, boring, waste of time, not fun. But I'm here to tell you, Sea of Stars does it right. Sit back, relax, crack open a cold one, fish, and gain something from fishing, and experience a good time. Some normal critters, some spooky, but all are needed and used for a positive end goal. Thank you for listening. Until next time, this has been Fishing with Nicktana. All right, man, that was a little different. I don't know how that's gonna turn out, but we keep it, bro. We ball. All in all, Sea of Stars, fantastic game. There's so much stuff I feel like I could talk about what this game does well. I've never really sat there, and every time I do my reviews, I don't like to spoil a lot of things that really go on during the game because I feel like this game should be experienced for you too. My duty as someone to review video games and to critique video games, use this as a guide, use this as something as research for you to pick up a game of Sea of Stars. I've had loads and countless amount of friends just ask me, I see you've been playing the Sea of Stars. I see you talking about the Sea of Stars. Is it worth it? I don't even hesitate, and I say yes. There's sometimes I play games and I'm like, it's just not the vibe. In a game that I can honestly say that's going to make me go back and play a lot of turn-based RPG games. I'm already looking at like Dragon Quest to give a shot. Might be a risky thing to do, but I got him, so I might as well give him a shot. To give you guys a heads up, Sea of Stars is about a 35 to 40 hour game. Some people can beat it in 30. If you're slow like me, it takes me about 35, 40. It takes me a little bit longer than a lot of other gamers out there. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm getting old. I can't tell you, but every second's worth it. And I can guarantee you with that. And thank you guys for listening to my little ramble of Sea of Stars. I seriously appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, man. I'm gonna go ahead and show up 2 videos on the screen. You guys know how this works on this side. I want you guys to go ahead and check out my Cocoon review. Cocoon is a puzzle game that's on Game Pass that I played. Beat it in one day, actually. One day. Very proud of myself on that. Also on the Game Pass. Make sure you guys check that out. Also, I'm going to put over here a game that I didn't like. I'm going to put the Last Case of Benedict Fox, because that game is coming to PlayStation. So if you have a PlayStation, you're thinking about getting that, might want to check that review first. Other than that, be safe. Tell someone you love them. I'm going back to Sea of Stars. I'm finishing this tonight. Watch, wait on it.